Welcome to our In Focus discussion tonight on partnering to help the unsheltered. Helping the unsheltered population get back on their feet truly takes collaboration between multiple community groups and members. Tonight, we will be highlighting two local organizations, the work that they do, and what needs they're seeing while working with boots on the ground. Up first in our conversation is Noelle Lizer. She is the support coordinator for Circle Salt Lake. Noelle, thank you so much for being here tonight and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Noelle, at your own comfort level, can you tell us about your experience with homelessness? And you can share as much or as little as you like.
Sure. So I am a single mom with 2 kids, and in the last 8 years, I have experienced homelessness 4 different times. Each of those times I was paying my rent on time. I was employed at least full-time, sometimes 2 full-time jobs, and being homeless, during that time there were times that we slept in the park or did couch surfing, or there were occasionally times where I was able to afford a pay-by-the-week hotel that we could stay in. I felt hopeless, overwhelmed, and completely alone. And I knew that I needed a circle of support, which is what brought me to Circle Salt Lake.
So tell us more about Circle Salt Lake, specifically how you got involved with this organization and how you now work with the organization that helps families in poverty get to at least 200% of the federal poverty guideline.
Yeah, so Circle Salt Lake is part of a national initiative. We're lucky here in Utah, we have 6 different chapters. I participated in Circle's Utah Valley as a Circle leader and got out of poverty, and then was hired by Circle Salt Lake. Our mission at Circle Salt Lake is to reduce poverty throughout Salt Lake, and we do this by building bridges of friendship and community that support individuals and families on their journey from surviving to thriving. Our participants and volunteers meet together weekly, working on the goal of reaching 200% of the federal poverty guideline.
Wow. So what services, resources, or forms of support do you provide to these families? I know that you mentioned some of them. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so Circles is about building your social network. So connecting with people that can encourage you and be there for you, and also connecting with resources. There's a lot of ways that Circles helps, and to learn more you can visit our website, circlesaltlake.org.
Now let's talk about that concept that you spoke of a little bit earlier. You talked about surviving to thriving and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So how does Unsheltered Utah, who we'll meet in just a bit, and Circle Salt Lake help individuals in different levels of the hierarchy triangle?
So from my understanding, Unsheltered Utah helps people who are currently unsheltered, and they help them meet those physiological needs.
So that's the red on the bottom right there, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, the red on the bottom. Yeah, so water, food, shelter, clothing, and then into the safety needs. And then Circle Salt Lake, or Circles nationally, helps beyond that. So the safety needs, the love and belonging, and esteem.
And I think this just shows that helping someone who is unsheltered, right, rehabilitate their life is a multi-step process. It's not just A to B, right? There's multiple steps there, and that's what you just explained to us. Also, what is the life assessment, and how does Circle Salt Lake use that information that comes from that?
The life assessment tool is introduced in the initial 12-week training, and there are 10 areas of life that our participants rate themselves of where they're at, and that goes on a scale from surviving to vulnerable to stable to thriving, and that helps them to see where they're at in those areas and where they want to be, so that they can set those SMART goals that help them get to thriving.
So how does Circle Salt Lake help people get back to thriving?
Really, it's about that social network. We connect people. Our participants do a 12-week training course, and then they become certified circle leaders. Leaders because they're the ones leading their journey. It's their responsibility to ask for the help that they need and know what their goals are, what their future plan is. They're then matched with allies who are intentional friends, who are there to encourage them and be there for them and buoy them up on those bad days.
I really love this because oftentimes when you're trying to battle poverty, you feel like you're by yourself. But it sounds like what Circle Salt Lake does is, like you said, build that network and build that community around them so that they feel supported and that they feel like they have a team. So tell me about the Big View team. Could you also share how it led to a panel discussion about housing challenges in Salt Lake and what you all found out?
Yeah, the Big View team is one of my favorite resource teams. With Circles, we ask the participants to give back, and that is by volunteering on a resource team. The Big View team takes a look at systemic barriers that keep people in poverty. We believe that the people who live in poverty are experts on that and the systems they need to navigate. The panel came from our Circle Salt Lake. Big View decided they wanted to focus on the housing problem, and they decided that it would to have a panel of circle leaders answer questions and share their experience with the housing situation in Salt Lake. From that, there were 2 bills that were recently passed. One is the Truth in Lending, and the other changes the 3 calendar day eviction notice to 3 business days.
Wow, and it just shows that the best people to hear from when it comes to these issues and challenges are those that have gone through it themselves. All right, Noelle, hold that thought. We have to take a quick commercial break, but we'll see you again later in the show, and when we come back, we'll resume our In Focus discussion on partnering to help the unsheltered. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on partnering to help the unsheltered. Joining us next is Wendy Garvin. She is the Executive Director and President of Unsheltered Utah. And Wendy, thank you so much for being here tonight. We're excited to finally have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Wendy, we'd like to start the conversation with your background in working with the unsheltered population. How did you begin working with this community, or what led you to this line of work?
Well, I worked for another nonprofit, and we provided food and loads of coffee, and folks would come into our lobby all the time, and I would hang out with them. And when the pandemic hit, I realized really quickly, as this population was moved back outside, that they had lost access to water, to access to cleaning themselves, to food, and a place to charge their cell phones. And I got worried about my friends I'd made, and so I started going out on the street to find them and help them and provide them access to those services that they were lacking.
I remember that because a lot of the public facilities that were providing some of these resources were closed down because of the pandemic. And I just think it's awesome that you identified the problem, a new problem that was happening in the pandemic. And you said, I'm just going to take matters in my own hand. So tell us about Unsheltered Utah. How did your organization get started? How do you operate? What's your mission? And why did you do it?
Well, I had been doing that on my own for a while, and realized that I'd hit the limit of what I could do as one person. And so I just posted on social media asking for friends and for help. And I was just amazed and blown away at the response from the community. We had volunteers from all over. We had monetary donations from day one. We were so lucky with this amazing community that we had. And partners from my board, Christine Steinquest, Nate Kazarian, LT Weiss sent out requests for help and helped build this network of amazing volunteers and this beautiful team that we have that helps people so much. Every weekend they just give all of their free time to it.
And you just thought it's time to make it official. It's time to give our group a name and just a sense of identity, right? I love that. Okay, so what would you say is the difference between the issues that the public sees on the very outer surface versus the issues that your organization sees within the unsheltered community?
I think the public sees the external issues. They see people in tents, they see people with lack of access to hygiene or potties, and they see, sometimes they'll see a mess. What we see is the origin stories. We see we see how people got to this place, and we see the trauma that is keeping them stuck in this cycle of poverty and homelessness. And because we have such close connections with all of our clients, we get the opportunity to help them find the right responses, whether it is to address addiction or to address housing or both. And we're able to actually get down to the root of the problem and help address some of the trauma that they're facing.
And like you said, these people are your friends. And so you know their backstory, you have a bond to them, and that's why you care about them. So what are some ways that you work within the system to connect people to establish resources for help?
Well, we have such amazing partnerships. We have partnership with Circles, with Noelle, who's here tonight. We partner with Utah Crisis Food Response, and they help provide us with food care packages that we can give out every week. We partner with Airport Inn and the VOA and the Road Home for access to things like hotel vouchers and housing case management. And we partner with so many of the amazing rehabs that are in this area to give people support for addiction recovery. And we're starting to form more corporate partnerships now. Niagara is donating an entire ton of water to us this week so that we can start handing it out for the heat of the summer. So we're just really lucky that we have so many amazing community partners that help us reach all of our goals to help the unsheltered population.
Yeah, it really shows that we need these partnerships. We need these friendships with these different community organizations to really help our unsheltered population. I want to talk about the controversial camp abatements that happen periodically in Salt Lake City. What is your take on them, and where do unsheltered folks go when these cleanups take place?
Well, I'm not a fan of the abatements. We see so much trauma happen when people have to move every few weeks. They never get an opportunity to follow up on their case management, on their housing management. They lose so many of their possessions, including important things like their ID, their medications. They lose so much because there's never time to pack. There's never time to move out of the area. And so we're against the abatements, but when the abatements do happen, we try and help people find places to go. We always encourage them to choose their own future location, but they often look to us for our connections within the city to find out when the next abatement in a new area may be happening, or where the resources are available right now, where's food available, where is it going to be safe for the longest, because they're always looking for the best opportunity to not get moved again so quickly.
Yeah, this really is a complex angle and topic to our unsheltered community and what they go through. Now, your organization has a proposal for a sanctioned camping area until the city's tiny home village can be built. Tell us the reasoning behind this proposal.
Well, other cities have tried this, and the advantage of a sanctioned campsite as opposed to a tiny home community or the apartment complexes that are going up, those take time. Building takes time. Materials, we're out of materials. Everything is getting more expensive. We can put up tents tomorrow. We can, if we have the land, we can put up tents, and then we can provide all of the same resources that a shelter would provide. We can provide case management. We can provide housing managers. We can connect people to addiction recovery services. We can run groups. We can we can do everything necessary to help our community get back on their feet. And because they don't have to move every couple of weeks, we won't lose access to them, we won't lose track of them, and we'll be able to provide them the ongoing services, the wraparound services that they really need.
Yeah, and we've seen this in other cities, and it's worked. So why not? Why not Salt Lake City? This could be something that works here too. And we're talking about a need that is very urgent, something that we need to see immediately, right? While we wait for this tiny home village to be built. Wendy, we have about 30 seconds left. How do you encourage participation from unsheltered folks to participate with you all as volunteers?
We actually don't have any trouble getting volunteers. In fact, we maybe turn people away more than you would think, because this is such a generous giving community, and they really love to give back. And so they're always looking for opportunities to help us in whatever they have, which is labor and time. And so they're always offering, they're always there to help. It's really great.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, Wendy, hold that thought. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll bring Noelle back into the conversation and resume our In Focus discussion on partnering to help the unsheltered. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on partnering to help the unsheltered. Now that we've heard individually from Noelle Leiser and Wendy Garvin about their organizations and what they do, we'd like to bring them back together in this segment to talk about how they've worked together. Wendy, we'll start with you. You recently had a house fire back in May that displaced your family and pets. How did that impact the work that you all have been working on with Unsheltered Utah?
Well, I had to take a personal break, and I've taken about 2 weeks off where I haven't been out very much in the community. Luckily, I have an amazing team that I'm so incredibly proud of, and they've been out there providing case management services. They've been out there dropping off food and clothing and reaching out to our community to make sure that things are not falling through the cracks while I pull my life back together again.
And you're doing it very, I shall say, very gracefully. Like you're here today, and it's been great to have this conversation with you. And Noelle, this is where you get involved. Could you tell us about how you were able to help out with this situation?
Yeah, so I recently bought my first home, and it has a basement apartment just in case, because I never want to be homeless again. And then I bought a fifth wheel, and I needed to get it towed from Huntington to West Valley, and a mutual friend, I put out on Facebook, and a mutual friend offered to tow that for me. And then he called me up a week later and said, "Do you know Wendy Garvin? She had a house fire and needs somewhere to stay." And I thought, well, that's perfect, because then it serves the purpose, just in case. I don't want to end up homeless, but can help someone else too.
And look at that, out of this, now both of you kind of work in a field with a common goal, and more than just you helping Wendy, you guys will now be interconnected, right, and can share resources and share the services that you provide to our unsheltered folks. I love that. Wendy, how can people help out if they're interested in supporting Unsheltered Utah? What are the needs that you have right now?
Well, I'll be honest, we could use some cash money. We spend a lot of money on propane, tents, sleeping bags, and other survival equipment for that lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so we get discounts, we have partnerships, but we still do go through that money, unfortunately, rapidly. So we can always use cash. We could use a grant writer. Anybody want to come and write some grants for us? We could use the ongoing partnerships with other organizations to fund the organization. And we could really use volunteers, particularly volunteers with trucks and volunteers who have free time during the week, who can go out during the daytime to help some of our unsheltered friends. If you go to our website, unshelteredutah.org, there is a whole list of volunteer activities. There's a place to donate, and there's more information about our organization and how you can get involved.
I feel like everybody can help in one type of way or another. And Noelle, we have about 30 seconds left. Tell us, how can people get involved with Circle Salt Lake if they're interested in the work that you all do?
There's lots of different ways to volunteer with Circles. I would say go to circlesaltlake.org and you can check out those. Also, if you're outside of Salt Lake, you can go to arriveutah.org and they can help connect you with a Circles chapter
Yeah,
near
we're
you.
talking about 6, right? Different locations throughout the state. So no matter where you're watching from tonight, you can get involved somehow if you're interested. All right, you've been hearing from Noelle Leiser, support coordinator for Circle Salt Lake, and Wendy Garvin, the executive director and president of Unsheltered Utah. Thank you both for all of the work you do to better our community. We appreciate you both for being here tonight.